Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we kick off another week. And boy, what a day today is going to be, and a week. As we start getting more clarity on the release of the hostages from the Hamas terrorists. President Trump is in Israel in this very historic time. Vice President J.D. Vance reminded the world yesterday not all of the hostages will likely be returned, with some of the deceased bodies being buried in the rubble of destroyed buildings. We have a full update for you on what's happening in Israel. Kamala Harris says her former boss, Joe Biden, sent her call to voicemail. Evidently, she reached out about his cancer treatment, and he would not take the call. Looks like things are not going too well between Joe and Kamala. Maybe he did just choose her as his VP because she's a black female. Just saying. As we start another week, too, there doesn't appear to be an agreement in sight to end the ongoing government shutdown, with Democrats saying over the weekend they're going to hold the line. It was like Chicago in the Palmetto State this weekend as tragedy struck St. Helena Island in Beaufort County, South Carolina, where a deadly bar shooting claimed the lives of 4.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
President Trump set off for Israel and Egypt yesterday, taking the red eye over to the Middle East as the time to come to celebrate the U.S. brokered ceasefire and hostage deal between Israel and Hamas, and to urge our Middle East allies to seize the opportunity to build a durable peace in what is a very volatile region. It's hard to keep up with the latest with the time difference, but there's a lot happening over there right now. President Trump, flying aboard Air Force One, told reporters yesterday that Hamas may release the remaining hostages a little bit early, signaling what could be another major victory for his administration's peace deal. Now, remember, these are the hostages still being held by Hamas following that historic peace agreement signed last week, the deal that ended the war in Gaza and brought Israelis and Palestinians together for the first time in decades. Again, lot to take in here, and still a lot of details to hammer out. Trump said, they have the hostages, I understand, and we may get them out a little bit early. Getting them was amazing, actually, but because we were involved and they were in places you don't want to know about. That's the president speaking about the return of the hostages, of course, a major, major accomplishment. Something that, I dare say that had Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, either one, been elected to president, I don't know that they could accomplish this. Trump didn't mince words. He has been hands-on in securing these releases, with several different key members of his administration being directly involved in the negotiations. And look, if Hamas does follow through, and I say if because you know how Hamas is. I mean, they're very unpredictable. I can't imagine they would back out on this because it'd have the entire world coming down on them. But you never know. We are talking about terrorists. But it will mark one of the most complete hostage recoveries in modern histories if it happens. And I pray that it does. I think it will. This is a humanitarian breakthrough following, of course, one of the darkest chapters in Israeli history. It's hard to forget, and we need to just keep remembering why this all started, how it began. October 7th, 2023, Hamas launched this barbaric assault on Israel. More than 1,200 innocent Israelis were murdered. Over 240 were dragged into Gaza as hostages, including women, children, and elderly civilians. The day was the bloodiest for the Jewish people since the Holocaust. As for the past 2 years, the world has watched as war raged against or across Gaza, just completely destroying that area. Cities flattened, families displaced, humanitarian toll just unbearable, people literally starving to death. But now under President Trump's peace deal, the guns have gone silent, finally. The ceasefire has held for, almost a week now, I guess. And the focus is shifting from fighting to rebuilding, from war to peace. And how can these people in this region live together? President Trump told reporters the situation on the ground is still difficult. Gaza, in his words, looks like a demolition site, and it does. If you've seen some of the images, some of the video, it is exactly what you think a war-torn area looks like. I never can understand war because in just 2 years, that Gaza Strip has been just about totally destroyed. It's a beautiful area. You got to keep in mind, it could be a huge tourist attraction. It's beautiful. A lot of it is beachfront. And they have just destroyed it. And it's going to cost billions and billions of dollars to rebuild. President Trump talked about the reconstruction, said it would begin immediately. First, by clearing unstable buildings and restoring power and water. It's just going to be a major feat just to clean the place up so that they can start rebuilding. I don't know what you do with all that debris. He emphasized, the president did, that this isn't going to be an endless U.S. occupation or an open-ended aid project. And I'm glad he said that, because it does concern me that we're going to have to foot part of the bill. I hope that, yes, I want peace in the Middle East. You do too, I'm sure. But at what point do they just start selling a bunch of oil over there in that area to rebuild this and not depend on us? The most encouraging part of this, though, and the president emphasized it, that it's going to be guided by this new international governing body that he calls the Board of Peace. That board will include representatives from the U.S., from Israel, and Arab nations. And the president says that he's considering former British Prime Minister Tony Blair as one of the leaders to help oversee it. In classic Trump fashion, he didn't totally commit to Blair. He said if he's an acceptable choice. I guess he's got to wait and talk with some of the other Arab leaders and some of the Israeli leaders, but maybe that's a good choice. The president also revealed something a little surprising, that Hamas has begun forming a local police force under close international supervision. Now, let's be clear here. This isn't Hamas, the terror group, running things. Under the terms of the deal, any Hamas member who lays down his arms can participate in the local civil police effort to maintain order. Trump said that the U.S. granted temporary approval for that to help protect civilians as they return home. Can you imagine that too, though? Think about if you left your home a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, some of those in the early areas of fighting. You left and you come back and you don't know what to expect. You don't know if you're going to have a home or not. In most cases, or in a lot of cases, you don't. How horrifying that would have to be. President Trump estimated that Hamas lost probably 60,000 people during the war. I mean, that's just an incredible figure that underscores just how devastating this conflict has been for both sides. And they brought it on themselves. I mean, how did Hamas ever think that they could win this? I mean, it was a suicide mission on their part. Their area is totally destroyed now, and they're going to be dependent upon Israel and the rest of the world to rebuild it. One of the tone of President Trump's remarks was triumphantly, though. He's very excited about the process and what's coming. He said, the war is over. Everybody knows their place. It's going to be great for everybody. He even described scenes of Jews, Muslims, and Arabs dancing in the streets together for the first time in years and years and years. It's a great time. It's a historic time. And aren't you just thankful that President Trump is in office again to walk us through this, to lead us through this? I mean, Trump's direct, business-like, no-nonsense approach has done what global diplomats haven't been able to do. Bring both sides to the table. Bring the entire region to the table. President Trump gave high praise to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, calling him the right person at the right time. Trump even revealed that Netanyahu has nominated him for the Nobel Peace Prize. He laughed when he mentioned it, saying Netanyahu did a very good job during the conflict. The Nobel Peace Prize, maybe Trump gets it next year. We'll see. Let's be honest, those summer vacations and backyard barbecues added some extra pounds, right? But instead of feeling guilty or falling further behind, it's time to reset, drop the weight, and get back in control. The solution isn't a shot. Real lasting weight loss starts with your mind, not your mouth. At PhD Weight Loss, Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team help you uncover the real reasons behind your weight gain so that you can reprogram the way you think about food forever. PhD clients lose up to a third of their body weight without ever taking a drug. I know because I lost 33 pounds with PhD weight loss. Through real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science, your body can become a natural fat-burning machine. Why risk spending thousands on shots that strip away muscle, come with dangerous side effects, and leave most people regaining 60% of the weight within a year? With PhD, you'll activate your body's natural appetite control, burn fat safely, and stay in control. Even if you're already on Ozempic, PhD can help you transition off while still losing weight. Take the first step today. Call 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. As President Trump was making his way to Israel, Vice President J.D. Vance was back home, kind of giving us an update. Appearing on Sunday Morning Futures yesterday, the Vice President was asked when we could expect all of the hostages to be released. Here's his response.
It's hard to say, Maria, because obviously this is a war zone. They have to locate the hostages. They have to gather them up. They have to take them to a safe place and then transport them. So it's a little bit unpredictable, but we've been told to expect them by tomorrow, Israel time, which of course would be early morning here in the United States. We'll see what happens, but the president is extremely confident these hostages are going to come home. He's actually flying to the Middle East later today so that he can welcome them in person. And Maria, one thing I have to say about the president's leadership style, about his diplomatic style, which of course has been criticized by much of the corporate media for a very long time, is it actually got results. And I think the story of how this historic peace deal came to fruition is that you had Secretary Rubio, you had Jared Kushner, you had Steve Witkoff, who were empowered by the President of the United States in very non-conventional ways to bring the Gulf Arab states and Israel to the table and really force them together to hammer out a peace deal. I take a special pride in Steve Witkoff, who was attacked mercilessly by the press. You know, he wasn't experienced. He wasn't a well-heeled diplomatic negotiator. Well, the fact that he brought a fresh set of eyes to this and the fact that he brought such great energy to it, I think is one of the reasons why we are at this moment where we can say we're on the cusp of a lasting peace. And the fact that President Trump didn't go down the failed pathway that every president of both parties had pursued is, again, why we are on the cusp of getting these hostages home. So it's an amazing thing, but I think that it shows the power of President Trump's non-conventional leadership style, and that's why we're here. I think the whole country, we should just be proud. We should be proud of this negotiating team. We should be proud of our country because these hostages are going to live their lives thanks to what the United States of America did.
So what happens next? Actually, it probably is happening as we're talking. Of course, the remaining hostages, according to President Trump, could be released ahead of schedule. When this happens, it will mark the final piece of a peace plan's first phase, and it will set the stage for what President Trump has called the rebuilding of a new Gaza. That's his vision, a stable, peaceful, economically growing Gaza, one that never again becomes a launch pad for terrorist groups. And if this peace holds, it could become one of the defining achievements of Donald Trump's presidency, not just for Israel, but for the entire world. I mean, these past couple of weeks have been just marked by extraordinary headlines out of the Middle East. Peace agreements, hostages being freed, and a long, painful war finally coming to an end. But even in moments of hope, there's still reminders of just how deep the wounds run. Again, Vice President Vance yesterday, when asked about the hostages and if we would get them all back, he was very cautious and reminded us that some of those who were killed may never be returned to their families.
Well, I think we'll locate most of them. And obviously, I think especially for religious Jews, it really matters that they have those bodies back to give them a proper religious burial. So that matters a lot, of course, to us, of course, to everybody who cares about these hostages. I think the reality is that some of the hostages we may never get back, but I do think that most of them, with some effort, we'll be able to give them to their families so they at least have some closure. Our focus has been on the living hostages. Those are the people that we've been most focused on. But we do want to give these people the ability to have a proper burial with their loved ones who were murdered by brutal terrorists. And that matters to us. It matters to the families, and it will remain a focus, but it's going to take some time. And Maria, here's a guess. I can't say this with certainty because nobody can predict the future. I think that we will eventually get most of the bodies, but we won't get all of them.
Now, again, this is exciting times, and there's no question. This is a monumental step towards ending a war that has cost thousands and thousands of lives, both Israeli and Palestinians. But as the vice president just reminded us, the pain is far from over. For the families of those still missing, those presumed dead, this next phase is about closure. It's about getting answers, finding remains, and finally laying loved ones to rest. And having that peace, if you can call it that you've got your loved one back home for a proper funeral and burial. I don't know if you've watched any over the past few days and weeks. You think about the images of Hostage Square in Tel Aviv this past weekend particularly. Hundreds of people waving flags, singing songs, lighting candles, waiting for word about their sons, their daughters, their husbands, their wives. Hostage Square, and I've been there. I was fortunate to be able to go there. It's in Tel Aviv, and to talk with some of the families of the hostages, be able to interview them. Soon that when Mike Gallagher and I went over soon after the October attack a couple of years ago, and I'm going to be back next week. Mike Gallagher and I will be heading back to Tel Aviv and then on over to Jerusalem, where we will again be interviewing people about this historic peace agreement. And hopefully by the time we're there, all of the hostages will have been returned to their families. But again, think about the images of Hostage Square and just how jubilant things have been this past weekend. And with Vice President Vance talking about the fact that just be prepared because there may be some that we aren't able to recover. Hamas has already said that some of the bodies are buried in the rubble of the buildings, and they've been gone for quite a while now. And President Vance wasn't sugarcoating it. He's acknowledging something that's deeply human, that even peace doesn't erase the pain of loss. And when you've lost someone and you're not able to bury that person, that loved one, there's always just a hole in your heart there for them. I just feel deeply for those families, and we have to pray for peace for them. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Well, here we go again, starting another week, and still doesn't appear to be an end in sight on the government shutdown. Think about this for a minute. The president is across the world in the Middle East because of this historic peace deal, something that no one else could have done, but yet, and this is no reflection on President Trump, he's done all he can do, but yet our own government here in the States is shut down. Chuck Schumer will not let it reopen. Another Democrat is digging in, saying, sorry, we're not going to do anything if we don't get the Obamacare subsidies. That happened yesterday with Senator Mark Kelly, Democrat from Arizona, when he was on NBC's Meet the Press. And he made it very clear. He says his party isn't budging. Republicans have offered to reopen the government while promising a later vote on the health care issue, but Senator Kelly, like Chuck Schumer and some of the others, says that's not good enough. He told moderator Kristen Welker, not right now, no, we need a real negotiation and we need a fix. A real negotiation, what exactly does that mean? What is a real negotiation? If having a vote every single day for the last couple of weeks isn't a negotiation, and the Democrats are the ones who continue to vote it down. So let's think about this for a minute. He said, we need this corrected for the American people. Because that little phrase, for the American people, sounds nice, but it's doing a lot of heavy lifting here, and the Democrats aren't doing the lifting. What Kelly is really saying is that Democrats won't end the shutdown unless they get what they want right now, which in this case is a guaranteed extension of those Affordable Care Act subsidies that were first expanded during the pandemic. We got to put the pandemic behind us and all of the extra programs, and then ended up spending trillions of dollars and putting us further in debt. So let's talk about what Mark Kelly is saying. These Obamacare subsidies. They're part of those emergency COVID-era bills. Remember the ones that pushed trillions into government spending? They were supposed to be temporary, helping families cover premiums through the exchanges, the Obamacare exchanges. But like every other, quote, temporary government program, once people got used to it, Washington decided it could never go away. Republicans are saying, hey, we'll keep the government open for now. Let's vote later on what to do about the subsidy. Seems reasonable, right? Keep the lights on, pay our troops, fund critical services, pay first responders, then start seriously negotiating on Obamacare. But Senator Kelly and his Democrat colleagues are refusing, not even considering it. They say they won't even consider reopening the government without a real fix, meaning a full, immediate extension of Obamacare subsidies. In other words, it's an all-or-nothing standoff. That's their idea of negotiation. Kelly told The Hill that Republicans' proposal lacked substance and that it wasn't enough to promise a future vote. He said, we need a real negotiation, not some vote without an assured outcome. Now, what a revealing statement. Because it tells us this isn't about negotiating anymore. Democrats want a guaranteed outcome, not a debate, not a compromise, not a fair vote, not a fair discussion, but they just want the subsidies, period. They want these subsidies locked in before the government reopens. Meanwhile, the clock keeps ticking. We're now entering the 10th day. It is 10, right? Yeah, 10th day of the government shutdown. And both sides are digging in their heels. Speaker Mike Johnson held a news conference last night to point out that it's Chuck Schumer who is causing the pain for the American people.
This is the number of times that the vote has been done. September 10th, the GOP in the House voted to pay the troops and pay all these federal workers. The Senate did it on September 19th, September 30th, again on October 1st, and 3rd, and 6th, and the 8th, and the 9th. Every single time the Republicans voted to pay the troops and federal workers, and every single time the Democrats voted not to. That is the record. They'll continue to put this bill on the floor. It'll be on the floor again next week in the Senate. And we'll see how many times they want people to go without paychecks. The Republicans are not playing games here. We sent a very clean, simple CR. You see this. Thank you so much for that. We are doing the job and making sure that the American people are taken care of. But judging by their behavior right now, the Democrats don't appear to be in any rush to end this pain. There's some headlines I brought you this morning. I just want you to hear what's being said about this. CNN headline from yesterday, quote, Democrats say even missed paychecks for U.S. troops won't be enough to end the shutdown alone. For many of them, this is about showing a fight to President Trump. They have to show a fight against Republicans so they can appease who? The far left base of their party. It is shameful. And for what? Chuck Schumer, the architect of this shutdown, is trying to bow to the Marxist wing of his party. You heard him yesterday. He said in his own words, every day of the shutdown, he said, quote, gets better for us. Better for who, Chuck? For the Democrats in the Senate? So you can bow to the Marxist base and not get a challenge? Here's another headline from Politico yesterday. Quote, Chuck Schumer's critics are satisfied. Yeah, the far left base of the party is satisfied. They don't mind the troops go without pay and civilian workers are furloughed. They don't care. Former DNC chair David Hogg, he heaped praise on Chuck Schumer as well. This is what Chuck Schumer was after. This is what he desires. The praise from the far left. David Hogg said, quote, give credit where credit's due. This is a big step up. A big step up. While you're delaying flights, while you're making people go through this pain. The co-founder of the far left group Indivisible said this yesterday publicly, quote, Chuck Schumer hasn't surrendered yet. I call that progress. There's one inescapable fact. It's a glaring fact that everybody in America can see. Chuck Schumer is hurting real Americans for his own political survival. I'm going to say that again. Chuck Schumer is hurting real Americans for his own political survival. If you're a service member who's not getting a paycheck, it's because Chuck Schumer has to appease the Marxist.
And that's pretty clear there, isn't it? The sticking point is this. Republicans, as you know, or let me remind you, passed a short-term funding bill, the clean continuing resolution that we've heard so much about over the past few weeks, that would keep the government open through November 21st, promising to talk about the broader deal. Democrats blocked it. They said it didn't include enough to protect those ACA subsidies, which are set to expire at the end of this year. If that happens, Democrats warned that premiums could spike for millions of Americans. Now, let's be honest. Those subsidies are one more massive government handout that taxpayers are footing the bill for to begin with. And when you strip away the talking points, what's really happening here is that Democrats are holding the government hostage to protect one of their favorite entitlement programs. Now, Senator Kelly's comments come at an interesting time because President Trump himself has been striking a more optimistic tone. He's been saying for the past few days now that he's confident a deal can be reached, one that both funds the government and addresses health care costs, that he's willing to talk. But that's not what they want to do. They want to keep the government shut down. They don't want to talk. A senior administration official told Fox News that the president remains committed to reopening the government and protecting affordable coverage for middle-income Americans. That's diplomatic language for, we want this shutdown over, but we're not giving the Democrats everything they want. And I hope he'll stick to that. Look, I get it. Healthcare is an emotional issue. It's an important issue. People worry about the premiums. They worry about their coverage. Both parties use that fear to score political points. But at some point, we have to recognize that all these programs that Joe Biden loaded us up on during the pandemic, they have to go away. We can't keep propping them up. This shutdown isn't really about healthcare. It's about Democrats wanting control. And because they don't have a majority, they're having trouble getting anything passed these days without bipartisan support. But in this one instance, they have a few extra votes because of the 60 votes that are needed to move on, and they're holding that over the Republicans and the Trump administration to try to make their point. Democrats are trying to pressure Republicans into cementing a permanent expansion of the Affordable Care Act in order to reopen the government. I don't know about you, but I hope the Republicans will stand strong. We can't give in. I know the optics look bad. And look, it's probably going to get tougher. So far, we barely noticed that the government is shut down. But I hate it for those essential workers who are having to work and not be paid. But again, it's the Democrats' fault. It's Chuck Schumer's fault. And that's where the Republicans just have to be smart about it and make sure that the messaging is right. Make sure that the American people understand that it's the Democrats, not the Republicans. It's Chuck Schumer. It's people like Senator Mark Kelly. It's the people who are extreme because they think they can blackmail the Republicans into continuing benefits that, quite frankly, we can't afford. The government can't afford to keep paying these if we're ever going to tackle our debt. Am I wrong? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to mypillow.com. Did you happen to see the story about Joe Biden not taking former Vice President Kamala Harris's phone call? It looks like there's still some frost in the air between the former president and the former vice president. This weekend, during an interview on MSNBC, the former vice president said that she had reached out to Mr. Biden after news broke that he was undergoing radiation therapy for his ongoing cancer treatment, but her call went straight to voicemail. She said, I have not talked to him. I just left him a message after I heard the news. I think Joe Biden is a fighter, and that is what I told him. But she seemed to be a little annoyed that her call went straight to voicemail and that he did not take the call. Biden is battling an aggressive form of prostate cancer that has spread to his bones, is now undergoing 5 weeks of radiation on top of previous hormone treatments. His team says he's doing well and that he's keeping a pretty low profile these days. But Ms. Harris, who released her memoir, 107 Days, it was released last month, hasn't exactly been shy. In the book, she calls Biden's 2024 reelection run recklessness and recounts some tense moments between the two, including a heated exchange before her debate with Trump. And while Harris says that they've talked since the book came out, she wouldn't give any details. She said, I'm not going to tell you. Since stepping back out from the 2024 race, Mr. Biden has reportedly clashed with other top Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, who were instrumental in pushing him out of the race to begin with. Meanwhile, the former vice president has been on a bit of a media blitz, criticizing Trump's presidency, of course, but also, interestingly, giving him credit for progress in brokering a peace deal between Israel and Hamas. She actually said that yesterday. She said, I don't think we should hold in credit where it's due. I commend the people who have been a part of this process, which the president has been a major part of that. What's next with Harris, and where does she stand with her old boss? That's kind of unclear. But one thing's for sure, 2026 is shaping up to be another unpredictable chapter in Democrat politics. It was a tragic and violent night in the low country of South Carolina this weekend. You would have thought that it would have been Chicago. The headlines read like Chicago headlines, the kind of headline that no community ever wants to wake up to. At least 4 people are dead, 20 others injured after gunfire erupted early Sunday morning at Willie's Bar and Grill on Dr. Martin Luther King Boulevard down on St. Helena Island, which is just outside of Beaufort. The Beaufort County Sheriff's Office says it's happened around 1 o'clock in the morning. Deputies responded to 911 calls, found a chaotic scene, they said. Hundreds of people running for cover, victims lying on the ground, others bleeding and terrified, trying to get to nearby homes or businesses for safety. When first responders got there, according to reports, the aftermath was just chaos. Paramedics with Beaufort County EMS rushed multiple people to local hospitals. Others arrived at emergency rooms on their own. In all, 20 people were hurt. 4 remain in critical condition. And again, 4 pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators say hundreds of people had gathered here. It was a night of partying, live music, food, friends, until gunfire erupted and tore through the crowd. You can imagine the panic. A packed patio, people shoulder to shoulder, when suddenly shots ring out. Witnesses say folks were diving behind cars, breaking through fences, literally running for their lives. By sunrise, Some of the images that have been printed showed a man with a power washer washing the blood off of the front steps. And on the door at the bar, a sticker that read, "No firearms or weapons allowed on this property." Kind of ironic, isn't it? That image just stops you cold, doesn't it? A simple reminder that laws and signs don't stop evil people from doing evil things. I don't care how many laws you have. I don't care what kind of signs you have. If somebody is evil, and right now I don't have all the details. I don't know if it was a single person or what. There's been some conflicting stories. And we're told no arrests have been made yet. The sheriff's office says detectives are interviewing witnesses and combing through video evidence, but the motive remains unclear. Authorities say that this appears to have been a crowded gathering that just got out of control, that it wasn't a random shooting, but they're not ruling anything out. In fact, they're asking people to call Crime Stoppers with tips. 844-TIPS-BFT. 844-TIPS-BFT is for the Beaufort County Sheriff's Office. Now, if you're not familiar with St. Helena, it's a small, tight-knit community. It's part of that beautiful stretch of the South Carolina Lowcountry between Beaufort and Fripp Island. I've been there many times. I had a buddy who used to have a home on Fripp Island, and we spent many, many weekends down there over the years. It's just a beautiful area. It's rich in Gullah Geechee history, home to families who've lived there for generations. This isn't the kind of place where mass shootings happen, but unfortunately, it reflects a pattern that we're seeing across the country, even in some of the most peaceful communities. Now, again, I don't have details, but I'm going to bet that there's probably some drugs involved somewhere along the way, because that coastal area, you do have a lot of drugs coming and going, people trying to slip them in in that coastal region. And it's worth noting that this is happening in a state that's been fighting hard to balance public safety with the Second Amendment. South Carolina law allows law-abiding citizens to carry firearms to protect themselves and their families. Now, again, with the small little details that we have, I don't know what stopped the killing. I don't know if the shooter drove off, escaped, or if someone disarmed the killer. But the fact is, somebody had a grievance, and the fact that they had gun-free zone signs up did not matter. They don't care about background checks or permits. The result is what we saw in Beaufort. Innocent people caught in the crossfire. It's going to happen every time. Now, the sheriff's office has been careful again, not to jump to conclusions. They've just said that it's a tragic and difficult incident for everyone involved, and that they're working on it. They're investigating. They're interviewing people. One of the sheriff's office said, "We ask for your patience and we continue to investigate. Our thoughts are with all the victims and their loved ones." That just kind of tells you, with that tone, that they don't quite know yet. Beaufort County Sheriff P.J. Tanner has been one of the most respected sheriffs in the Southeast for decades. His department has handled hurricanes, missing person cases, and yes, shootings. But something of this scale on St. Helena Island just doesn't quite add up. And I got a feeling that when all is said and done, again, it's probably going to be dealing with drugs, and maybe of someone who's not even from the area. This tragedy comes at a time when the nation is having this conversation about crime in our communities. We see Chicago, L.A., Portland, Oregon, and we see these shootings every weekend, unfortunately. And I'm not quite sure how you stop them. But what we do know is that passing gun control laws, limiting how law-abiding citizens like you and I can have access to guns, will not stop a horrible crime like this that happened on the coast of South Carolina this past weekend. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.